What's going on, guys? My name is Jake,
I'm Jesus.
and this is your Body Comp Prescription, where we help you navigate through all things health and fitness. Hope you're all having a great day. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram at bodycomprx. But Jesus, why don't you take it away and tell them what we're talking about today?
Yes, guys, welcome. So today's episode was another request by one of our followers. This individual is a frequent listener, claims he's listened to every single episode, every single second. So shout out to you, Angel, if you're listening. Hopefully you're listening. You should be listening. But today's episode is going to be about metabolism, right? We're going to talk about everything metabolism, give our 2 cents about metabolism, what it is, how can we change it, if can we change it, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's episode.
All right. So first, when talking about metabolism, we want to go over body type first, because if you understand what your body type is, this really helps you when figuring out what your goals are and helps you figure out how to best get to your goals. So we have three different body types, right? We have endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph. Endomorphs are generally seen as people who are a little bit more stocky, have a little bit more trouble losing weight, generally seen as slower metabolisms. Ectomorphs are the exact opposite, where they're seen kind of as skinny, lose weight a little bit more easily, have fast metabolisms basically. And then mesomorphs are kind of that one that's right in the middle. It's kind of like the best of both worlds, where they generally can put on muscle pretty easily, but also they can lose weight easily as well. So I think what we'll do is just kind of help you visualize which one you are. We'll identify ourselves, right? So I'll go first. I'm about 5'9". I hover around 165, 170. I'm definitely an ectomorph, and you can see through all of my pictures since I was younger. I've definitely always been a lot more skinny, but and I generally have a really fast metabolism. So hopefully that helps. I'm generally skinny. Jesus, what do you think you are?
Yeah, so I mean, those who know me don't know me. About 5'11", 5'10", depending on what shoes I'm wearing. And I'm about like 190 pounds, right? I would say, now Jake, can you give you 2 cents? So if you were listening to last week's episode, I mentioned my journey. In high school, I was super skinny, high metabolism. Now I'm not super skinny, almost on the other side of the spectrum. And my metabolism is a lot slower. So because of that, I would say I'm more of a mesomorph, because typically when I'm training and I'm dieting, I could I see a large fluctuation in my weight. It would drop down tremendously, but then I could also gain a bunch of weight really easily, right?
I think you're an endomorph disguised as an ectomorph previously, because and what I mean by that is, again, ectomorph is generally the really skinny individual who has a fast metabolism. Endomorph is a little bit more stocky and has a slower metabolism. But if you didn't listen to that episode, Jesus was really, really skinny in high school, right? And I think it's because of all his activity that he did. He was very active, and he was a long distance runner for the most part, right? Cross country, track, and basketball. Those are all very calorie demanding exercises. So I think you were an endomorph that was disguised as an ectomorph in high school because of how active you were in all the sports that you did and ran.
Yeah, it's a really good point. But so you see, kind of like it's a very interesting like topic, and understanding your body type, because a lot of this plays into the factors of what we talked about last week's episode and what we're going to talk about right now. Because knowing your body type, it kind of get a little confusing, but understanding the whole picture, it would definitely help.
For sure. But why don't we define metabolism for you guys? Generally, when people want a definition for metabolism, they're actually talking about their basal metabolic rate, or their BMR. Some of you guys might have heard of this before, but if you haven't, your BMR is the amount of calories you need in order to maintain your weight, while also maintaining your basic body function. So, making sure that everything's running right. A lot of times when you go into a really aggressive deficit is when your vital organs start functioning or malfunctioning a little bit. And that's what we mean. So your basal metabolic rate is when you stay the same weight and all of your functions and vital organs are working properly, basically.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Cool. But why don't we jump into some factors that affect your metabolism or your BMR, right? Jesus in high school talked about, having a fast metabolism, then a slower metabolism now. And I kind of alluded to one of these factors, but I'll just go down the list for you. We have age, height, weight, gender, muscle mass, activity levels. So all of these things play into your metabolism, right? It's not just your, a lot of people like to point to their genetics and say, oh, well, my dad has X metabolism and so on. So there are things that you can control. There are things that you cannot control.
Yeah. So I think, how Jake just said, there's things you can't control. You can't control your genetic factors, right? Who you are is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Things we can control, though, is our, activity levels and basically our body composition, such as like our muscle mass, right? These two things kind of go hand in hand because, how we were just talking about body types. You're either on one side of the spectrum or the other side of the spectrum. It's really unique to be in the middle or be able to jump up from other spectrum to the other spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, you to get you to go to the other side, right? So if you want to be kind of like an endomorph rather than ectomorph, you kind of have like to take into account your activity level. The more resistance training you do, the more muscle mass you build up, you could start moving on depending where you put each other one. You could kind of move towards the other one, right? If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think what you're trying to say is like you're not just stuck there. You don't have to be an endomorph all your life or an ectomorph all your life, blah blah blah, right? It is hard to move from one side to the other, but there are things that you can control in order to move one way or the other if that's something that you're trying to do. And I think that a lot of people want to know, like, how do you increase your metabolism? How do you increase your basal metabolic rate, right? You want to burn more calories than you previously did if you want a faster metabolism, right? So this is how you do that. You increase your muscle mass, and the reason that this is because your muscle is a very metabolically demanding tissue, meaning it requires a lot of calories in order to be sustained. So if you put on muscle over time, your BMR will increase. It won't be by a lot because muscle building is a very hard process, but that is one way. Another way is by simply increasing your activity levels, right?
Yeah.
So Jesus used to be a long distance runner. He still does running, but when you run a lot, you burn a lot of calories, right? So if you want to have a faster metabolism, you simply need to burn more calories throughout the day, right? Whether that's more walking, around the office, if you work in an office, or just increasing your step count, or if it's going to the gym more frequently, whatever the case is, increasing your activity levels is one way to increase your metabolism as well. Another way, protein. We talk about protein all the time. Increasing your protein intake will boost your metabolism. And here's why. We've talked about this before, but when you consume protein versus a carb, fat, alcohol, any of those other macros, right? Protein is a lot harder to break down within the body, so you burn more calories in the process of trying to metabolize protein, basically. So if person X weighs X amount of pounds and person Y weighs the same amount, but the difference between one of them is that they eat, let's say, 40 to 50 grams more protein per day, the person that eats more protein will burn more calories throughout the day, basically, because it's more to process in their body, right? And then the last one, kind of proven, not really proven. You can add spice to things. Adding like cayenne and stuff like that can boost your metabolism like acutely, just because it helps raise your internal body temperature. And that's what happens in your body in order to burn calories is, you produce heat in order to burn those calories, right?
Yeah, you bring up really great points, and I kind of have here a couple of points I want to claim up. They're so-called claims, right? I'm not calling them myths because it's claims. This is what people claim. One of them I wanted to bring up is our metabolic rates can't change. That's the claim out there, right? And I think how Jake and I were just talking about earlier, it's really difficult. You could change them. Sorry, I want to make that clear. You could change them. Typically people who are leaner have muscular bodies, they need more energy to function. So those people have a higher percentage of body fat, or than people who have higher percentage of body fats. Those people with leaner muscular bodies, they will tend to have a higher metabolism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
you can change your metabolism. I think we just went over that, right? It may not be the easiest thing ever, but technically you can. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a myth. It is hard, but it can be done. You can change your
Mm-hmm.
metabolism, right? You can move from one end to the spectrum over time.
Yeah, and then Jake, you just brought this one up. Another claim about people saying a diet of green tea and chili peppers will boost your metabolism. Those are spot on. Just how Jake says, it helps. It's not, there's not really too much science behind it, but it's known. We're not saying that to make chili peppers kind of like your focus of your
Mm-hmm.
nutrition. No, by any means. That's not necessarily what we're saying. We're saying, maybe adding a few chili peppers, chili flakes, here and there will help you. It's not going to be tremendous, but it would be, it's a little boost.
Yeah, you said green tea also, and this is true, and I think it's true for both that green tea and peppers or spice or whatever you want to call it, they increase your metabolism like acutely, like in the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
not long term, right? Like if you put on more muscle over time, your BMR will change permanently. But if you
Yeah.
consume like green tea because of the caffeine or the stimulants, right, it boosts your heart rate, simulates activity, and you burn calories doing that. Same thing with spice, it boosts your internal body temperature, you burn calories doing that. So those are acute things, so short term basically. Technically
Yeah.
the answer is yes, they do help, but it's not like something that you should rely on to boost your metabolism.
Yeah. And another point I wanted to bring up, another claim is very low calorie diets and skipping meals can jumpstart weight loss. Right.
the,
Um,
the
Go
this
ahead.
is like a twofold thing, because technically, again, yes, like if you decrease, you said small meals, what is it,
A very low calorie diets and skipping meals.
low calorie diets, technically the answer is yes, right? Because if you
Mm-hmm.
want to lose fat, less calories will equal fat loss, but this doesn't necessarily boost your metabolism. It's honestly just gonna like shock it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna like do it. Like you can't outsmart your metabolism,
Yeah.
like the focusing on the size of your meals and the timing of your meals and all that kind of stuff, it won't change your metabolism really all that much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, I would say it almost kind of like backfires. If you create such a large calorie deficit by like, either skipping meals or just having very low diet,
Mhm.
that's, it could backfire and becomes very unhealthy. And, it really kind of becomes counterintuitive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then
Any more?
one more I wanted to bring up is eating late at night slows your metabolism, right? So there's this belief and claim that people say like, oh, if you eat after 8, you're gonna gain weight.
And it goes even further than that. Some people claim it's 6 p.m. It's like, oh my god, I barely get off work at 6 p.m. Like
Yeah.
it's completely false. the
Hmm.
the this is definitely bro science. The thought comes from a good place,
Hmm.
but it's not entirely true. The reason that this
Hmm.
is thought to be is because if you eat later in the day, you wake up the next morning feeling more like, maybe bloated or don't look as good as you maybe did the previous morning. But that's simply because your body doesn't understand what time it is. Like you can argue circadian rhythm and stuff like that, but your body, all it knows is if you put food in, it's going to process that. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Your body doesn't know, oh, it's 8 o'clock. If you eat carbs right now, that's going straight to fat storage. It doesn't do that. It processes it the same way. If you eat the same meal before 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. or whatever your clock is that says you store fat after, it won't happen if you eat it past that time. Yes, you may not look as nice in the morning, but that's simply because you pushed back your feeding window, and the time that it takes to process that also gets pushed back. So that's all it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
but
I think. Oh, sorry.
go
I
ahead.
was gonna
No,
say
no, no,
real
go ahead.
quick. I really like how you said it comes from a good place.
Mhm.
this claim, it comes from a good place. And I think maybe what this individual, people who claim these things, what they're trying to say is like, if, for example, if you're eating dinner, let's just say dinner at 6, but then you're still snacking around like 9-10 o'clock late at night, that's where, that's not healthy for you. That does, cause you to gain some weight. So stuff like that, kind of like a bigger picture, when like if you're consuming more than you should, that definitely doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, weight gain is directly attributed to eating more calories than you need. It doesn't
Mm,
matter what time of day it happens. If you eat more calories than you need, you will gain weight. If you eat less calories than you need, you will lose weight. That's
yeah,
that's the
correct.
end of story, you know.
Correct.
But let's jump into like meal timing and frequency a little bit, because I think there's a lot of people that think this is a really big deal when it comes to um, your metabolism and fat loss and all that kind of stuff. So um, I had my own opinions, but just because I didn't want to make this completely subjective, so I looked up some articles and made sure that what I was saying was completely true. So if you're interested in reading those, we'll link them down in the description. But basically, what it comes down to again is that meal timing and frequency doesn't really play that big of a role in your metabolism, right? Studies are inconsistent. Like if you a lot of people like to say that if you eat 6 small meals a day, it's better for your metabolism than eating 3 big ones or 2 big ones. But the reality of it is that, again, if it comes down to trying to be in a deficit, if you eat less calories, you're going to lose weight. If you eat more calories, you're going to gain weight, right? So however you best, whatever fits in your schedule, and that's how you should approach it, right? If you don't have time to eat 6 meals and cook 6 meals, then don't eat 6 meals, right?
Mhm.
Like again, this comes from a good place. Like eating smaller meals can help, like, you know, your body process that, but that's only because of the strain that it places on your gut. Really, that's the extent of it. So if your body doesn't have a problem eating 3 big meals, then eat 3 big meals. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like eating smaller meals doesn't help you, like doesn't really help with the cap of amount of protein that you can intake through one meal, and so on in that whole argument. You have anything
Yeah.
to say about that?
I mean, I think we just brought this up in the beginning of our video. How do we change our metabolic rate? Resistance training and muscle mass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like whether that means you're consuming 6 meals a day or 3 large meals. But if you're also, doing some resistance training and you're building up your muscle mass, you're going to be able to boost your metabolism like that
Mm-hmm.
as well. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to consume 6 meals a day so your metabolism could be high, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could have three, but say like I'm still resistance training, I'm building a lot of muscle mass, I'm taking a bunch of protein, you're
Yeah, I
solid
mean,
just like that.
yeah, the calories, if the calories are the same either way, it doesn't matter how many meals they're split into, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes down to timing, like meal timing, everyone wants to talk about, oh, like, again, the whole can't eat past 6 p.m., 8 p.m. debate, or you should eat a big breakfast because it kickstarts your day and all that kind of stuff. Timing is really subjective. Again, studies are really like inconsistent on this, because again, if it comes down to goal achievement, it doesn't matter if it what time it happens at. It's, can you sustain the amount of calories that you need to eat or that you don't need to eat for that amount of time in order to achieve your goal. The only like real argument I think you can add here is maybe like pre or post workout nutrition, like, but I think that's not even what everyone thinks it is. A lot of people think like pre-workout nutrition is like eating some gummy worms because fast acting carbs, and I want glycogen for my workout. Again, like coming from good places, but like just because it's fast acting carbs doesn't mean it's necessarily good for your workout. You can have a pre-workout meal filled with slower digesting carbs a couple hours before, and it'll be just as good for you as, it'll probably even be better for you than eating a pack of gummy worms like right before you work out. But yeah, pre and post workout nutrition is really the only argument you can make for meal timing. But again, if you have set numbers of calories to hit throughout the day and macros to hit, just hit those. You're going to be just fine. They don't
Yeah.
alter your metabolism really that much.
Yeah, I know my last and only point really for this, it's like, sometimes I think people are like, oh, it's too early, or too late to eat my last meal of the day. But it's like, as long as you're still reaching your calorie goals, I don't necessarily think like if you have your dinner slightly earlier than usual, or than what's said to be done, you'll be okay,
Yeah,
right?
it's bigger picture, like just because you eat all your meals later in the day, one day out of your whole 12-week cut. I mean, how
Mhm.
many days is that? That's, well, so 12 times 7, quick math. It's like 84.
Yeah,
Sorry, that
yeah.
took way longer than it needed to, but
I was like,
that's 84 days. One out of
yeah,
84. That's not going to affect you all that much.
no.
Usually I'm better with math, but I think where I want to finish this is um, I want to talk about like our metabolisms, like ours personally, but also yours at the same time. Is I think that a lot of people are really concerned with their metabolism, saying, "Oh, I wish I was." So if I'm an ectomorph, right? I'm skinny, and I wish I could put on weight so much easier, so that way I could build more
Mhm.
muscle, right? That's my argument, right? But I know the other side of the argument is someone that's an endomorph who can't lose weight very easily looks at me and goes, "You eat whatever you want, and you can, you lose weight no matter what. You have the blessed life." And you got to understand that everyone generally wants like the opposite of what they have. So, just understand what you are, like, again, what body type you are, and then just slowly start working your way there. Because if that's what you're focused on, is like, oh, I wish I was endomorph or ectomorph, and you're the other one, it's not really contributing anything to achieving your goals. You know what I'm saying? Because I could sit here all day long and say, man, I 100% wish I was an endomorph so I could just build muscle all day long and put on weight all
Mhm.
day long. But I know that that person wishes that they could lose weight as easily as I do. So, just keep that in mind. Everyone wants the other, but just accept what you are and work your way towards the other one by doing those things that we said, that, how you can improve your BMR and all that kind of stuff,
Wow, that was very moving. Appreciate
Thanks.
that. But yeah, no, I think that's a really great point, because you always want what you don't have,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you use what you have got, because if you're able to build muscle easily, use that to your advantage. If you want to build muscle, you know that you could do that. Use that to your advantage. Um, that's all I really got to say about that, because a lot of times, even myself, sometimes I'm guilty to that. I am like, damn, like I wish I could have a size 28 waist, right? But then sometimes I'm like, I sometimes, when I take a step back, I'm like, you know what? I like being a little bigger, right? It has its benefit, pros and cons.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
definitely.
all I really had to say.
Yeah, everyone's gonna have their own opinions and say like, oh, you're dumb, you're small, and you should put on weight. And it's like, listen, man, I'm trying, you know
Yeah.
and you can easily look at someone who's on the bigger side and say, hey, just lose weight. But it's not as simple as that. So, you know as long as you accept what you are and know that you can work towards the other one, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Again, we always say it's a long-term deal. So, you know just work towards that, and you'll be good. But you got anything else you want to say before we close this out?
No, that is all, guys.
Cool. Hope this was helpful, Angel. This was all about metabolism. I'm sure this is something you guys wanted to hear as well. So we're happy to talk about it. If any of you guys have any more suggestions about what you want us to talk about, please let us know down in the comments. But until next time,
Peace out.
peace.